it like movable, right? Moving. So fluid election means it has to happen at least every 5 years. But say that the lead party's they just passed something that they know everybody's really, really happy about. They can say, hey, I think we should call the election right now. Let's call the election right now because we're doing really well. We're really popular right now. We think we've got a really good chance of winning. So let's call the election right now. So that's what happens when sometimes you'll have the election every 4 years. And then what they can do is if they call the election and then they like shoot in the polls ahead of time, it doesn't look like we're going to do as well as we thought we were going to do. Shoot, let's cancel the election. Let's go back. We'll go back to 5 years. We have to do it every 5 years. Give us 1 more year just to get, really popular legislation down so that people really like what we're doing, and then we'll call the election. Okay? Is that clear? It's kind of a complicated. It's very different from our system, right? Our system has fixed elections. Okay? What's a fixed election?
It
has to happen within a certain amount of time, right? So we have every 4 years a presidential election, right?
Yeah. Why would they do that? Be able to have food elections? Like, what's the
elections?
Besides benefiting the party that is calling the election.
That's a very good question. I think it would be.
I mean, it sounds like the party is trying to appease to the crowd.
It is, and so in a way, it kind of benefits the population the most, right? Because at any point in time, the majority party and the Labor and the minority party, they're trying to pass legislation that they know will make the most people happy, right? Does that make sense? It's right next to you. Does that make sense? So by having a majority and minority party this party is trying to pass legislation that they know is going to make people really happy and make people feel pretty good, and this party is trying to overtake, right, to get more votes. So they're doing the same thing. They're trying to pass legislation that will make more and more people happy. So is that clear? So and vote for them whenever they can call the election. Is that, yeah? Okay. Really fast, a little bird told me it's somebody's birthday today. Can we sing a little happy birthday? Is that okay? Yeah. I'm going to warn you, my voice is awful. I'll try. Ready? 1, 2, 3. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Sierra. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday. So before we move on to the AP skills, actually before I give the test back, I just wanted to review what's not there. Some of the AP skills that we need to work on. So overall, the tests were good. It was a really tough test. And I want to just talk to you too about the progress reports I sent home. Just a heads up, I sent home progress reports to everyone. So because you got a progress report doesn't mean you're doing poorly in the class. There is what I hope to be some helpful constructive feedback for you in there, so that you can focus on skills that will help you do well in this class and in college, right? My goal is to help you get those skills now and really focus on those skills now so that you're well prepared for when you enter college next year. I'm being a little tough on you guys. So I know it may have come as a little bit of a shock that you maybe got a progress report. I found out afterwards that not every teacher sends home a progress report to every student. I didn't know that going in, so I sent them home to everyone. But so sorry about that. But I'm being pretty tough on you guys. So this is an AP class, and so I'm holding you to an AP standard. If this was an easy class, everybody could do it, and it wouldn't be something that you could say like, oh, I'm taking an AP class. It wouldn't be something to be proud of, right? So I want you to be proud of taking this class and of making it through this class, which means it's going to be tough. You're going to have some tough tests. You're gonna have some tough, you're gonna be graded hard. When you get to the AP exam, hopefully that means the AP exam is really easy, okay? So you can walk in there, ace it, because you just made it through boot camp, right? AP boot camp, okay? So if you have concerns, and a couple of you I asked to come talk to me during office hours or during our free period, I'd love to work one-on-one with each of you on the skills that I asked you or mentioned in your progress report. So let me know a good time for us to meet, send me an email. If you want to do it privately, that's totally okay. And we can figure out when would be a kind of mutually agreeable time for us to sit and chat. Is that clear? Any questions? No? Okay. Okay, so I don't know what's going on with my computer. It's a little squirrely today. Let's see what's going on. Okay, so one of the big things about the test, by the way, and testing in this class, by the way, was a big part of your grade. So I just published your, well, I'll tell you in a second. Yeah.
Was the grade that you sent home, was that the grade after the test or before?
After.
Okay.
So that includes the test. So everybody started out with an A, and then your work will change that, right? Or not change that, as the case may be. So you start off with an A, right? I think you're all awesome students. And then if you don't score as well on the test, then it will bring your grade down. If you score better on the test, it brings it up. They're all curved, so hopefully that will help your grade. So my goal is to try to help your grade as much as possible, and I was trying to be as generous as I could with the points on the test. So, but some of the multiple choice, those are multiple choice, that's you either get it right or you don't. The short answers are what I actually wanted to talk about with the AP skills. Your short answers, I'm going to be really honest, need a lot of work. Short answers should be full sentences, right? And the biggest thing is they need to answer the question, okay? So, answer the question. That's the biggest thing, right? So if it says define something, make sure that you're defining it. If it says apply something, make sure that you're applying it. It's helpful if you have time to give as many examples as you can, right? Examples can help to demonstrate that even if you messed up the definition a little bit, you can salvage yourself with giving a really good example, right? That shows, oh, she gets it, she just kind of fudged up the definition a little bit, right? So, and I have up here, it's often helpful to define first and then apply it. So when it says apply something, if you can define it and then show that you can apply it, sometimes that's helpful to see, okay, she knows what this is, and she knows how it's used, or he knows how it's used, right? So you have to make sure that you're understanding the question and answering the question on those. Okay, so we're gonna do an example together as a class. And we're gonna kind of craft something together. But what I want you to do first is to take a stab at this. Let's do A, B, and C. We won't do B today. So if everybody could take out a piece of paper, please, I have paper if you need it. And what I'd like for you to do is to kind of draft a short answer, and then we're going to craft one that we think is really good together on the board. So you guys are going to kind of work in, then you'll talk in small groups, then we're going to craft an answer, a really solid answer on the board. And then I'm going to show you what a 5 score would look like. A, B, and C, yeah, we're not going to do D. D is kind of long. They're going to take too much time. Should I do A, B? Let's do ABC. And this is an actual question from the 2012 AP exam.
Question. Is there any form of study guide we can get for this book? Because I know almost every other AP has those like AP study guide books, and I looked and I couldn't find a comparative journal one. I can only
One
find
that goes to the book.
Yeah.
Like a Princeton review kind of book?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like you can find it for every other class, but and even American.
Are you looking for sample questions?
Any kind of like sample AP book or like a study guide.
So I don't know. Do you know? Is there one? We actually have a couple, I think. Do we?
That's something.
I'll check. The other thing is there are sample questions online. So I have links that I can post on Haiku to sample tests, past tests. Is that what you're kind of thing you're looking for?
I mean, somewhat, yeah. Like, I mean, those would be a little like helpful when you get close to the test. But just like study guides in general before that.
So one of the
There are
best
sample questions at the end of each chapter. There's like 50.
Yeah.
Okay.
And one of the best study guides, honestly, that you guys are going to use is those vocab terms sheets, right? Remember those vocab sheets? And then we're going to be doing AP test prep for the last few weeks before maybe, depends on how quickly we get through each unit, but we're going to be doing AP test prep for the last couple weeks before the test. So we'll be doing intense test review, hopefully even better than Princeton review. And then your best study guide, honestly, is keeping those vocab terms. And I'm gonna ask, also the tests, remember the tests I'm giving you are based on the AP exam. So I'm asking you, the reason these tests are so hard is because it's like AP tests. Some of these are taken directly from past APs. So these are tough for a reason. I'm not just like cracking the whip being like, I wanna see them all struggle on this test, right? That's not my goal in life. My goal is for you guys to do really well in the AP. So, and for you guys to learn lots of comparative politics.
Oh, we're gonna start doing second to beginning of the second semester. It's like by the time November comes around, we'll be doing the entire AP test. It's gonna be 20 minutes.
It's like, oh, fun.
That's AP physics.
It's a lot quieter
I'm-
than previous ones.
I think somebody's just sitting there on the button and the thing resets every like 30 minutes and the guy's like, no. Stop.
Oh, sorry. gonna take about 3 more minutes, or 2 more minutes. You ready? Okay. Alright, is everybody finished? Yeah? Alright. I would like for you guys to just chat briefly in your small groups about how you answered the question. So maybe go around and try to decide on a combined definition or answer to each question. Because some of you guys may have answered them slightly different than others, and somebody else in your group might have thought of something that you might not have thought of. And I want you to, sorry.
God.
I spoke too soon. I'm sorry.
I want you to think of it in those criteria, right? Are they writing full sentences, and are they answering the question as deeply and well as you can? Okay, so just talk in your small table groups. Let's take about 3 minutes to do this, and just see if you can come up with a combined table definition. Maybe 4 minutes. You might need a little more time. Okay.
I think you have to say that because this could be a nation.
Yeah, it's a big thing. I mean, it's a controlled. It's controlled within the land. Land is like the biggest thing about it.
Yeah, it has land. There's like a specific thing on land.
It's an area, a location.
Okay.
Whereas
That
a nation
could
is like a.
Yeah, so like under the same government.
The government
that share what? Yeah,
no. They don't necessarily have a set government or land.
They don't have to set government either.
You don't need a set government.
About identifying their common moral and political values, and nations not necessarily.
Nations don't technically have one. Don't need
Do you
to.
see like I really like what you said about that.
Sort
Not
of
with like a definition.
Just kind of pushed around between 5 states.
Describe one challenge governments face.
Well, each nation can completely disagree with itself because they all have different values, and that way, the government ends up multinational governments have to deal with like appealing to both sides of the nation, both nations within the state. And because of this, whichever nation is high represented ends up getting what they want passed. So that's in a democracy, even in a theocracy.
I just said because there's a lack of unity amongst the population as well as the possibility that the nation is not identified as some government ideology, yet they all agree.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, if you have an authoritarian government with a 5% represented, it's like it's Christian versus Islamic. It's 95% Islamic nation, 5% Christian. The Christian's the authority. However, there's 95% Islam, and they have a chance that can overthrow it. Exactly, they can overthrow it easily.
It doesn't have its own.
Look at Egypt. There's Egypt had like a crazy dictator for 30 years, and they finally said, you know what, sick and tired of this, we're gonna kill him. So they did. Yeah. Well, they sort of did. They shoved him in a drainage tube. I don't know if they shot there or not. Yeah. Like the sewer tubes. They cornered him into one. He like tried to like sneak out through one. And they found him. We get mad at our president. We don't chase them through. We don't try to kill them.
We just wait for the president.
Well,
No, like, it
depends.
depends. Like, we killed
It can be difficult to create and keep
Reagan was
a
think it's national scene, but it's not national scene because it's about my uncle. When my grandpa was a bodyguard, I sent a picture
Was he there when
together
he got tried to get shot?
when people he retired before he's like, I don't want to leave, so I said,
God.
and so then they came back and asked him like, this is exactly what was laid out, like this is the security that was laid out, how it would have been better. And my grandpa like pointed out the places the way he would have done it, and like the way it would have worked, like it would have been like shooting, like I mean, poor Reagan.
She survived.
Yeah, that's good. I would hate to.
No, it's a pretty bad
You
thing.
know, it's going through Abraham Lincoln's head when he got shot.
And
Bullet.
Wasn't I? Okay, I didn't know.
right about walls.
I didn't get one either.
Yeah, so it does look like wall.
No,
What do you call it? What do you call it? The crack is?
in bathroom.
His mouth,
The way it weird.
Oh, those things are really good. Yeah, that movie Fox Trolls got some interesting. It's one
You
of those
didn't get
Tim
one?
Burton movies where they guys live under the streets.
You know what might be,
Corpse
we might be waiting on a couple teachers.
but I've gone to like
Told you, I was like, oh,
it's not like I haven't tried any. I saw one.
but no.
She might have to rerun them.
Creepy.
So that might be one. I'll check in with Miss Pfeiffer.
They sent to our
I like
parents,
the
not us,
one.
too.
Yeah, I think
They're
so.
sent to
I
your
actually not sure.
That'd be my other one.
Okay.
Christmas, that's it.
No,
Yeah.
my mom got one. She was like, "What is this?"
She might need to rerun. So our progress report, can we just talk about the progress report system?
My mom freaked out
Yeah,
when she
same.
saw it.
Because you were
She was
just
like,
like,
what are you doing?
The progress report?
No.
What?
So I'm sorry about that. I didn't realize that not everybody gets a progress report. So I sent one home for everyone. And I actually like that system. I'd like to keep doing it because it lets you guys know how you're doing in the class. So if there's certain things you need to work on from a teacher's perspective, I'm going to put that in the progress report. I also want to emphasize, you guys can come check in with me at any time. Don't wait for the progress report to go home before you come check in with me and say, hey, how am I doing? What do I need to work on? Oh wow, I didn't know that this was an issue. Now I really can focus on it, right? So I want you to come talk to me. You're gonna have to do the same thing in college, right? College, you don't just sit back and have kind of passive, like I'm waiting for my teacher to approach me. Your college teacher is gonna have 600 other students to deal with. You as a responsible student are going to have to take the initiative to go check in with your professor and say, hey, and I used to do that before every quarter, before every midterm about, is when I would go take the initiative. I'd make an appointment with my professor or my TA right before midterms and say, hey, how am I doing in this class? What do I need to work on? What's going on? So I would really highly recommend that you do that. And you're always, anytime you guys want to do that, you're more than welcome to do that with me. I'm also more than happy to work on stuff one-on-one with you guys, maybe during office hours or free period, if it lines up. So, yeah.
Are you going to be putting our grades on Skillz?
I just published them right
Okay.
before class, so, but I didn't want to tell you that because you're all gonna look at them.
Yep.
Can you hold off on looking on them until we do this, and then I'm gonna hand back your tests, and then you'll understand why those grades are. Because I don't want you guys to like freak out and be like, oh my god. Yeah.
Next time, like, are tests gonna be like updated fairly like regularly, or like you gonna wait till like before?
Yeah, so I'm sorry about that. I have all the grades in there. I didn't realize that they weren't published, so that you guys
okay.
couldn't see them until one of you pointed out to me. I will go through and publish all of those. I only found out last night that they weren't published. I thought you guys could see them because I put them in everything has been graded as you guys have turned it in.
Okay.
By the way, I also just checked reading notes today. So
So our grades are gonna include like the like little assignments you assigned us and like our comments and stuff.
yeah, so those are part of your grade. So I'm checking, and for the comments, quality is important. It's going to be out of certain set. The first couple, I just gave you points for doing it. As we get deeper into the semester, I'm gonna keep the standards pretty high. It's right now you know how the system works, you know how haiku works, you know how current events work. I want you also to start using your academic language, okay? So some of the comments I've seen are like, yeah, this is, I can't believe he's doing this, like, it seems like this would be a really bad idea. Does that sound like academic language? Not really. I want you guys to use the terms that we just learned in IPL. Okay? We're not learning this just to be like, okay, cool, took the test, now I don't have to remember it anymore. I want you guys to start using the language of political science as for the rest of the school year. Okay? So I need you guys to develop that over time. Okay? And work and actively use that language in your current event posts, in your blog posts, and in your short answers. Okay? Cool?
I got in a debate with somebody yesterday in a study period about ISIS.
So what are we thinking for those questions? Stop me, right? What are we thinking for these questions? Define the concept of a state. What did you guys talk about in your small groups? I heard some really good conversation. Yeah.
I said, or Tati and I said, like, it doesn't have to be like a government, but like a group of people that have control of military in a certain territory. Like a defined territory.
Within a defined territory?
Yeah.
Okay.
Also, maybe that's
Sorry, this is messy.
maybe that's like a sovereign.
This is your guys' definition, so let's go here. What did you guys talk about? Do you want to add something to this?
Yeah, I want you.
Okay. A state is a sovereign area of land that can contain multiple nations and that has a monopoly on violence.
Multiple nations. Monopoly on violence. Okay. What about this group behind me? You guys.
Pretty much that, and then we also thought it'd be good to throw in some examples, the United States and
Great.
Canada.
Okay. Example, U.S. and Canada.
Are there a lot of
And when you talked about the U.S., how did you talk about that?
We didn't really elaborate on that, we just said.
Can you elaborate on that,
State.
right? Because there could be, the
Okay.
U.S. is a tricky example, right? Because people might get confused between state, like state of
Okay.
California, and state,
State of the United
right?
States.
So,
State of the
Toddy,
Union.
do you wanna?
Oh no, this is a question. On the AP, like if they're using the United States, are you allowed to use other countries as examples that aren't necessarily the 6 countries?
You can.
Okay.
Do you think it's a good idea?
Probably not.
Probably not, right? It's better to show, you're gonna have really in-depth knowledge of the countries that we study. It's better to show that you really know those countries.
Okay.
Okay, so I would suggest using, instead of using the US and Canada, maybe choosing, and we haven't studied them yet, so you guys, that's totally okay, you guys haven't gotten there yet. But I would suggest you choosing 2 countries that are perhaps that we are studying. What might one be?
UK.
Not the UK, right?
China?
Let's talk about China.
Russia.
China and Russia.
The Economist.
Uh-huh.
I don't know which one it's from, but it's on my anyways, it's about how, what is it? It's just XY, I don't know how to pronounce it. His name, the Chinese.
She?
Xi.
Who are you talking about?
He's like, and it's
Is
like
it Xi?
the photo is like of him, and then a bunch of people or men in suits holding up like a cardboard cutout of his face, or their face is like how one man like controls the whole. I didn't read it, but I read the cover.
Can you post it?
Yeah.
Can you post it? That would be awesome. I just finished an article on the bike last night that was talking about, it was Putin, and it was talking about the long game, and it was a chessboard, and Putin was standing behind the king. It was really interesting. Okay, so these are all awesome definitions. Do you guys have anything to add over here?
I said everything that we said already.
Okay, so you guys are going to be the first group for the next question. So these are awesome definitions. Let's try to combine these into a solid definition. Anybody want to take a stab at it?
A sovereign area of land that a group of people control within a defined territory with a monopoly on violence.
Such as China and Russia.
Right, and what about the nations part? Do you want to include that part? right? Maybe we could do 2 sentences, right? But this is a solid definition, and if you wrote it out into full sentence form, I'm going to show you what the AP says would be a good answer. I don't know why it's not here. Let's see. Okay, can you guys see that?
No.
It's teeny. It's Command plus, Control plus. Make it bigger.
I guess 66%.
Okay.
Command plus.
Oh, it's not. It's very slow today. Huh. It's big on my screen, but it's not big on my screen. I just connect. So the question, this whole question is worth 5 points.
I feel like it should be worth more.
Is it?
Right?
I feel like
It's-
I'm writing more than 5 points.
It's a lot of,
Is there just short answer
Material.
questions on it?
no, so there's multiple choice and then there's also a short answer. I'm showing you the short answer because that's what I noticed.
And there's no essay?
Is it 80 multiple choice?
Oh yeah, yeah, I'm gonna show you that.
This is not a short answer question. This is an essay question.
An essay question.
Are there
Or
short
free
answers?
response. This is one of the longer response questions.
Oh,
So
would you put that in?
So, but here's the
This would
fun,
be a paragraph for each one.
so here's the funny thing about this AP.
Yes.
You don't have to write an essay, like with a thesis and, you know, like, there's no structure to it. You just answer the different parts of the question. So you can label it A, B,
Oh, so it's like
A,
bio.
answer it, B, answer it, C,
Oh,
answer
okay.
it,
You don't
D,
have to turn it
answer
into a whole like
Into a
A
long
plus
essay.
issue.
They only care that you
Don't.
that you have right answers. They care nothing for structure. They just answer exactly what's being answered. And if you don't answer, and here's the neat thing about it being 5 points. If you don't answer A correctly, maybe you answer B correctly, so you still get a point. You may not answer B correctly, but maybe you get C. So partial credit galore.
So much.
Oh,
nicer.
okay.
So it works in your favor for it to be like this. It's a good
Okay.
thing.
And how
So-
many prompts are there?
There are.
There are
this-
5 short answers, 3 longer ones that are broken up into A, B, A, B, C, A, B, C, D. Right, so
And
this
so
would be one of the
2 would
longer
just be
ones.
like A, like
It would
just
just
have
be
one
like-
question.
Correct.
How's the parliament structured?
like the questions we had to test.
Something like
Correct. Correct. Define the equality.
So like the structure, oh my god.
Oh.
Yeah,
Correct.
so I'm gonna show you guys.
Write complete sentences. That's the only thing that I want that we want you to do.
Yeah, it must be.
Oh, I can't do it.
Jesus
So,
Christ.
I know, this is like a stressful day.
Go for it.
So
These
again,
guys
here,
like us
1
video
point
games.
is earned for a correct definition of the concept of a state. Acceptable definitions include an organization that maintains control over a given territory. You talked about group of people with control of military, right? But I think that would probably, within a defined territory, I think that would be acceptable. A set of political institutions that generate and execute policy within a defined territory. The entity that has the monopoly on the legitimate use of coercion within a given territory. I think in this case, coercion could be interchanged with violence, so,
Military. That's your answer. Military right there.
right, yeah. So that, well done, you guys answered it. I'm gonna show you what a 5 response looks like. Okay. It's hard to read, but you can see over here exactly what Mr. Stafford is saying. It says A, B, C, right? So I'm going to read it for you because it's a little tricky to read. A state is any geopolitical region in which the government has sovereignty over its people. For example, the United Kingdom is a state, as the central government in London has the legal sovereignty to govern all of the people within its boundaries, which is strengthened by its high level of legitimacy held by the current regime. Okay? So that is a solid, that earned a 5. That earns a full point for that question.
Why?
It answers the question. It has a really good example.
It answers the question.
It gives a really solid example. So you see how that example really strengthened the response? It showed, if it had just said, a state is any geopolitical region in which the government has sovereignty over its people.
That's
fine,
You get half a point.
but no. I mean, that's fine, but by giving an example, it shows, okay, it adds to it, right? It says, for example, the United Kingdom is a state as the central government in London has the legal sovereignty to govern all of the people within its boundaries, which is strengthened by the high levels of legitimacy, right? Talks about legitimacy within the state held by the current regime, another keyword, right? See how they peppered in that academic language I was just talking about? And that example really strengthens that response, okay? You guys did number 2, right? You did part B, part B. Let's go up and talk about part B. How is a nation different from a state? Let's go, it's on here. Explain how a nation is different from a state. Yeah, Tati.
A nation is a group of people who identify together, but it might not necessarily have a governing body, but it also can. Because Sarah said, used the example of Northern European states who are pretty homogeneous, so their state is their nation.
Okay, can you repeat that first part?
A group of people who identify together.
I'll say common identity.
Yeah, like with a common identity.
Common ID. Not necessarily with government?
Not necessarily with a governing body, but in a homogeneous state, they can have a governing body.
Homogeneous?
Yeah.
Good use of academic language. State, they can. Okay, so you talked about what a nation is. Did you talk about state?
We also said that a state is, it can have multi-nations.
Okay. Okay. This table over here, sorry, said you were going to go first. Anything to add?
I mean, I just said in mine, like, the example, I said, like, whether that, nation is, like, within the state, or it could be, like, not even within the government, or, like, something like the Kurds.
Okay.
Like that.
What do you mean, like the Kurds?
Well, like, I said that basically, I think, like, we all basically did, but, like, we gave all examples, like, the Kurds are with, like, a nation that, is across different states,
Okay, and what do you call that?
a stateless nation.
Yeah.
Can you say that never mind, I changed my question.
Stateless nation. That, when you're talking about the Kurds, when you're talking about Israel, when you're talking about ISIS, you want to drop this term, stateless nation, right? Drop in names. I want you guys to drop in names all over the AP exam, okay? So, drop that name. Okay, that'll help. That's a good example. So, okay. And let's go see what the example says. So the answer, it says on here, 1 point is earned for correct explanation of how a nation is different from a state. Acceptable explanations include: a state is a set of institutions that maintain control over a given territory, while a nation is a group of people bound by common traits such as race, language, religion, and ethnicity, and political identity or aspirations. Did we answer it over there? Broadly, what do you notice about this?
It lists.
Specific. Remember the first day of class when I talked about how political science is super specific, right? It's abstract, but it's also super, super specific. And that this is where it comes in handy. You need to say what types of common, you say that common identity there, but it needs to be even more specific, right? What is a common identity? Such as race, language, religion, and ethnicity, and political identity or aspirations. Okay? Allie was first, then Quinn.
It's in this one they repeat what a state is, what
Uh-huh.
a state's supposed to be when comparing it to a nation. If we have a question which we need to compare something that a previous question asks, should we always
Rewrite
repeat it?
Rewrite it, because they're asking, these questions can be graded separately.
Okay, so we should treat them as that?
separate?
They could be two different readers,
So it's like
could
one
be two
reader
separate.
only reads A, one
right?
reader only reads B.
And you want to, remember, answer the question. So every question you're pretending is an isolated question, okay? So even if it's one after another, and even if it's kind of guiding you through a train of thought process, doesn't matter. You could have two different people reading these answers, so you need to redefine the state, define the nation, and talk about the difference. That's what the question's asking you to do, right? What is the difference between a nation and a state? So remember what I was talking about where I said often when it asks you to apply something, how it's often helpful to define it, right? Remember I said that at the very beginning? This is the type of thing I'm talking about. When you're asked to compare or say the difference between two things, you really have to show the difference. So you say, this is what a state is, this is what a nation is, and this is what the difference is, okay? A nation refers to a group of people and not an institutional mechanism or set territory, okay? I think it says students do not need to define nation to earn this point. I would definitely define state, and then you can imply the contradiction. I would still define both state and nation if I were you. Better safe than sorry, right? You want to be as thorough as possible. Even more points for this table, right? You gave an example, the Kurds. So now let's look at what the person wrote who earned a 5. Person who earned a 5. A nation is any group of people who share ethnic, cultural, or religious ties, right? Super specific. The boundaries of the population of a nation may or may not coincide with the geopolitical boundaries in the state. When they do, this is called a nation-state. When there are many nations within one state, this is called a multination state. Or, yeah, a multi-nation state.
I really like that word geopolitical.
Yeah, right? What does that mean? Do you guys know?
Geography and political.
It's like geography and political combined, right? So when you talk about boundaries and political boundaries sometimes boundaries are made by politics, right? Right now we can draw an outline. Here's Syria. Here's Iraq. This is not what they actually look like. And we can say, this is the geopolitical boundary of ISIS, right? We can say that this is where ISIS is. That's a geopolitical boundary. Okay?
Even though that's not a state.
Even though it's not a state,
They want to be a state.
we can say it's a geopolitical boundary because this is like where ISIS is spread to.
Would Syria and Iraq be okay with just giving ISIS that area to be their own state?
Would you trust ISIS with a state?
Right, and because when's ISIS going to be satisfied? With say, oh, this is enough, right?
Also, would you support the legitimacy of a state that murders people who aren't their religion?
Right, and convert or die.
Well, how do we get rid of them?
You could solve world politics if you could answer that question. That would be awesome. I would love for you to answer that question.
We kill.
But okay, so we're actually you guys did C as well,
That's what we're doing.
right? Let's just talk very quickly about C because we only have a few more minutes. We're not going to get to lecture today. We had a lot to cover, but I am going to give you back your tests afterwards. So you guys, actually for now, let's talk about the test. Can you guys all read this? I'm just going to read this out loud and you guys can compare your definition. Pretty long. Multi-nation states include the United Kingdom, Nigeria, and Russia. Each has faced a common challenge of violence caused by accumulating cleavages between the different nations within a state. In the UK, the cleavage between the Irish Catholic nation of Northern Ireland and the Protestant nation of the rest of the country caused conflict with the formation of the terrorist IRA, Irish Revolutionary Army. In both Russia and Nigeria, conflicts between nations produced violence. In Russia, the Chechens in Chechnya staged a bloody revolt when the Russian state failed to grant them independence. In Nigeria, the Igbo territory of Biafra staged a bloody civil war for independence with the ruling Yuba called the Biafran War. Okay? So see how those examples, you're going to learn about all that. So that sounds like crazy stuff right now, but you guys will learn about all of that. But do you see how those examples strengthened it, right? Strengthened it, the response. Okay, so now I'm gonna go ahead and give back your tests. I don't want this to seem overwhelming. We're gonna work on this together as a class, and you guys are going to improve. By the end of this, you're gonna have lots and lots and lots of practice, right? Practice makes perfect. You guys are gonna have tons of opportunities to perfect this, okay? The average was actually pretty good. It was B plus or B. One thing, I'm gonna hand these back to you. I'm gonna give you a few minutes to look at them. I actually need your short answer pages back. So I need you to just hand them back to me at the end of class, and I'll give them back to you next week, early next week. I just need to, yeah, let's see. I'm gonna try to compare you guys from the beginning to the end. Okay, Allie. Quinn.
Thank you.
Kathleen. And your grades are actually on haiku, they're not actually on the paper.
How large was the curve?
So you guys can check haiku. 12 points.
Do you curve it based on like whoever gets the highest scores, like what might be good then?
Yes. So your grade is on haiku, you should be able to see it. I'll put your grades soon. Sorry, it's just I actually will need your whole feature because I just plugged it in. That's okay, sorry.
How many was the short answer out of? 25.
6 points each. Yeah. Here's your short answers. Here's your. Okay, so for these ladies, and gentlemen, here's this. I have your short answers. Yeah. Oh, thank
So do
you.
you need the piece of paper with our answers on it, or do you need this?
Why don't you give me, it's up to you guys, if you want to keep all of it. Well, actually, just the short answers, I just need the short answers. Okay, so, take a few minutes to look at your quizzes and your grade, but if you would, it's really important for you to learn this material. So, I'm giving everybody in the class the opportunity to submit test corrections for 50%. Okay, 50% of their grade. Okay, so you may submit test corrections. It's really, really important that you learn this stuff. Okay, what that means is you would submit the question, the answer, and you need to write a sentence explaining why that answer is correct. Okay?
You have to read multiple choice.
Redo, yeah, you would redo.
Oh, the multiple choice.
The multiple choice questions and
explain
the
why.
short answer.
Yeah, is that why on the multiple choice it doesn't tell you which one's actually the right answer? It's just like this one's wrong.
Yeah, it just on the multiple choice on your ScanFont, it'll tell you which ones are wrong. I'm not going to mark which ones are right because that's part of what test corrections are. Test corrections. So you guys have the opportunity to do test corrections over the weekends. Except for your short answers, I just need to scan them. I could actually, if you want to do your short answers, I get to have them scanned by the end of the day today. So if you want to do your short answers, come back and pick them up at the end of the day today.
Are they allowed to collaborate when they do their test corrections? Are
I'd
they allowed
like
to
for
ask
you
you for help? Are they allowed to use the internet? Are they
You're
allowed to
more
use
than
books?
welcome to use to work with me for help. Have you collaborated with them?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
I don't see much of a difference of asking you
Right.
for help and asking each other for help.
Right, it's okay.
As long as they come with the right answer.
Okay, so you may collaborate, you may use your textbook, whatever you need to do to find the right answer and make sure that you write out the right answer, right? This unit, remember I was telling you, is the most important unit. So it's really important that you get this material. I'm also more than happy to sit down with any of you to go through the test with you, right? And we can explain why a certain thing There are a couple questions that everybody got wrong, and we're gonna make sure we review those at the beginning of the next class, okay? Any questions?
Do you want Sarah reading?
Oh yeah, and can I see your reading notes, please, before, come on, you guys.
How much is
Like,
the
the
biggest
response out of
the
24.
24?
Oh, well done.
You're more than welcome to come sit with me. I'm really happy to come to explain any questions that you might have. And actually, if you have a question that you think would benefit the whole class, we can do it in class kind of review as well at the beginning of next class. Yeah.
So if we're gonna go over some of the questions next class, is it, are the corrections due next class?
Corrections are due next class. Yeah, which is Monday. So you have almost a week to do them. Okay. So test corrections are due Monday. If you have to turn in your short answers now, but I can have them back to you. I can have a pile here during office hours if you want to come down during office hours and pick it up. Sorry about that. I was hoping to scan them this morning and I printer issues. So yeah. Okay, we'll talk maybe after and pass them through. Your reading, you have reading essentials due Wednesday of next week. Can we have a volunteer for current events?
From Monday.
Awesome, Rachel, thank you. So Rachel's our volunteer for the current event for next week for Monday. And remember, everybody, your current event comment is due Monday before class, so Sunday night. And I think that's it. Any questions? I feel like you guys are all like sad. I'm not trying to, like I said, this class is going to be a tough class. It's an AP level class, and I'm trying to prepare you for college and for the AP test. This class is going to be a challenging class. But I'm here to support you. I'm here to help you learn as much as I can, and your peers are here to help you learn. Maybe it's helpful for you guys to do a study group, right, where you can study before the test and bounce questions and ideas off of each other. We used to do lots of those in high school and in college, right? Whatever support you need, I'm here to help you guys. So if you have questions about the test, why is this one wrong? I swear this is the right answer. Come talk to me, and I'm happy to help however I can, okay? If we do really hard work, hopefully the AP can be a breeze, right? Because you'll have worked so hard throughout the school year that you'll get to the AP and just be like, oh, this Celsius class is way harder than this, right? So that's my hope, and we're gonna keep challenging you. It's a challenging class.
So I'm allowed to keep the test, but I just give you back my.
Keep the test for test corrections, and then just give me back your short answers so I can scan. Huh?
Go and collect the short answer.
Yeah. So can I have the short answers, and as I come around and collect, I'm gonna check your reading notes.
I also highlighted the book.
Okay.
But I did like specific.
UK is super interesting, so, okay. And you'll have more for next time, right? Yeah. Good. What? Do you also take the notes?
Oh, no, I thought that does. Oh, I see what you're saying.
Kalachi, is this yours?
No. I have mine.
Who has bubbly writing?
It's like the end of someone's.
Yeah, it's like the end part of someone's.
And some of 2 pages.
Wait.
Someone else did.
Oh.
It's like the end letters. I thought it might be Tawny because it kind of looks like
Kalachi wrote.
So it looks good.
I like everything's on front and
I'm
back.
gonna see
Yeah.
this, and your reading notes?
Rachel.
I'm gonna make like a really big one. No,
I might get 2 too. Go off. Rachel and I get it.
looks good.
Yeah.
Alright, looking good. Gracias. Do you wanna keep this for? Oh, I need yours.
Guys,
You're
we
right,
have a
thank
class
you.
meeting at the beginning of lunch, right?
What?
In the house.
If anybody's in foodie club, first meeting's today at lunch.
Oh, I can't go.
Okay.
I have
Do
like
that.
2 meetings then.
Okay. No worries, I'll know you're on the list. You have the haiku thing, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I wanna,
They don't as well. Awesome. Love to see that.
Like cheers.
I do like to write me on.
I gotta run.
It's very.
No, I mean like during the game though. I know she.
Great. Nice, thank you, well done.
She's never like that.
And your instructor and paper for another just need to scan them because,
Oh, yeah.
what I want to do, because, getting it back to you guys, so we may or may not, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm gonna go up. I did. Are you okay?
A solution to your video problem.
What's going on?
With what?
Why are we playing?
This though might be
Helpful.
for using iMovie for
Video posted online
use the
from a man who
huge
appears
part
to be French.
unused
Oh,
part
yeah,
of
sure,
the
yeah.
platform.
CNN.
Love it.
Where you
I just
do your upload
really-
videos,
I
upload
just
videos, it's got a fast
yesterday.
connection, which is superior.
First time in 2 days.
Okay.
2 days.
I like that, that's a great idea.
And by the way, this recorded an hour's worth.